Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored with Steve Taplin.
Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored, where tech leaders drop the filters and just tell it like it is. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, a serial technology entrepreneur, published author of the Amazon bestseller Fail Hard, Win Big, and CEO of Sonatafy Technology, a custom software development firm. Today, I am joined by Matt Ryan, who has been a skilled IT leader and veteran across multiple industries, who left the large corporate world to focus on startups, now is the founder and CTO at Kythera Labs. This is going to be a good one. Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, tell us about Kythera Labs.
Yeah, most of us say Kythera, but we are named after the.
I told you I'd screw that up.
No worries, because I don't know if we have it right either. Because we kind of took the name after the anti-Kythera device, which if you ever wanted to Google something and get lost in a thread there, it's so that island in the Greek. Some people might call it Kythera, or we say Kythera, so for the most part. But we're a healthcare data company and building out data products for the healthcare industry, as well as software products and extensions there.
So tell us the story that led you to be one of the co-founders of the company.
Yeah, I left the corporate world around 2011 in a company called eVariant, which was in the healthcare space there as well. And there I just sort of got to work with all these dynamic leaders and skilled technicians, really close to the customer needs and the products, and I got sort of hooked right away. And so since that point, one of the dynamic leaders there is named Jeff McDonald. And since then, eVariant got sold to Health Grades. And since then, Jeff is also a serial entrepreneur, started up many things that I've been with him, from Expression Health to now Kythera Labs. And my role has always been sort of the technician, right? The infrastructure lead, the architect, or the leading the development teams. So I've been on that area. And, as the company's sort of grown, sort of the role just evolved into the CTO role. We're about 30, 40 people now.
Gotcha. So coming from big corporate, going to the startup world, do you like being able to roll your sleeves up and be involved in more? And how's that transition been?
Oh, it's been great. Like, I'm still in there in the PySpark code, right? I'm still in there, up to my elbows in the data, and enjoy that flexibility in the role. But we have a strong team too, and so I do, like, I don't know if I would change anything. Startup world isn't always as glamorous as it might seem and what people dream about, but certainly it's been a fun ride. I wouldn't change.
Awesome. Well, tell us about some current projects that you guys are working on.
To answer that, first I should step back a little bit by saying how we've kind of evolved. We been a Databricks partner since about 2015 is when we first started to evolve with them. And at that time, we were trying to solve big data healthcare problems then, but we had our own like Spark cluster, and it was an in-house cluster. And when I say in-house, it was basically Jeff had gone out and bought some old Google servers on the internet and went out in his pickup truck and drove them back, and we set them up in the.
That's entrepreneurism at its best, right?
Yeah, it's like in the back of the hairdressers in Centerville, Tennessee, and if our headquarters is in Franklin, Tennessee, which is just outside of Nashville, and Centerville is just outside of Franklin, so it's a pretty small town. And so it was it was a startup experience there, but it was nerve-wracking at times because the storms would be rolling down the valley there, and we'd be like, "Are the jobs going to finish before we lose power?" And so when I saw Databricks, when we came across Databricks, which was like a cloud-based Spark, extendable environment, scalable environment, managed by the contributors of the Spark open source, I was all in right away. It's like we started porting that same day, and we got into Databricks there, and they were an emerging company at that time too, and so we've been kind of evolving with some of their technologies, but we've never been just like a Databricks implementer or something like that. We've always had our own data sources and building our own data products. And Databricks is sort of the tool we use for our batch and our distribution of that data with our customers. So, but as they've evolved and they keep bringing new and new technologies, we've had to be sort of a good partner with them. Like I've been on a couple of their councils from the very beginning, like serverless and Unity Catalog. And Kythera, we've been the on every single private preview that they've ever released. I think pretty much from their built-on platform to every other little feature that we have been there. So so we knowing that we built a lot of our expertise in that environment. Where we're trying to do now is to be less of just a data provider. And we've learned so many lessons over the years as a team about healthcare and healthcare data. We're able to package that experience into a Python wheel library that we can distribute and run in any environment, really. So this helps us meet the needs of customers who may already have a data buy or might already have their own data, but they're just not getting the value out of it that they really thought they would. We're able to bring our expertise in there and help them through their problems with de-identification, standardization, refactoring, remastering, and even running some base level machine learning and analytics, directories, and all those things that go together to make a environment where you can really get those types of insights. So for
What,
now, with the packaging.
Matt, what niches of healthcare does your company focus on?
Right now, our focus is on the provider and life sciences workspace industries, which pretty much covers a lot of it, right? So, where our type of analytics does help is on that business side, not on the clinical side per se, but it is in that business planning and business intelligence.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, what's your view about big data technologies right now and how to really provide real world value to companies?
Yeah, it's certainly a hot topic these days, and the scales of the data that you can work with now are just from when I've started are just sort of amazing. We deal with petabytes of data inside our system right now, and 30, 40 billion claims and growing all the time. So it's really matured now, and with our Databricks partner and how they're doing things with serverless, it's just more and more accessible. But you still have to know what you're doing, or else the costs will start getting really out of hand. So it's still that same old dilemma of making sure you're using your resources most effectively.
Now, you guys have been working on a new product that you're calling Data Sync. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it goes along with that whole idea of packaging our logic as opposed to selling a data product, a refined data product. So this means what it is so somebody who has their own internal data or other sourced, what we call data sync is really they can still buy our source level data, not our analytics, and local to them, combine it with their data, and then run our analytics on top of that. So that's really been useful in the provider market where they really have their own data and it provides their own insights and they can see those things, the market data that we provide alongside of it. And it's ready to be ingested into any sort of BI tool or AI tool, and we provide those as well. So now they're on top of that same unified data set.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about your engineering team. How many engineers you have, where they're located, the work model you guys focus on.
Okay. Yeah, well, we're still a pretty small team. We're about 6 engineers across the US. It's a very, everybody works remotely. The highest concentration is in that Nashville, Tennessee area. And yeah, great team.
And how have you found best to manage a remote software team, keep them motivated, keep everyone on the same page?
Oh, wow. That is a tough question, right?
Easy question.
Yeah, we're all trying to do that, and we're all trying, I guess, get better at it every single day. I do meet with the team one-on-one and in groups as much as possible, and trying to engage them to work on projects together. We use Slack all the time, which isn't that, sometimes it can be great, sometimes it can not be. And so, hey, let's have, our meets and turn on those cameras, stuff like that.
I have found I love Slack as long as I'm sitting at my computer doing stuff. Where I hate Slack is if I'm on the go and people are like asking some in-depth things that aren't quick answers.
The oversubscription, the too much information, because I do find that whole context switching is a challenge for the engineers. That it's like you're working on something, you're trying to get in that zone, and then bing, that's that tyranny of the urgent, right? It's like something
Well,
small catches your eye.
and let's talk about that. Pre-show, we were talking about kind of some of the biggest challenges you're facing, and tyranny of the urgent was one you mentioned. Give some context on that and the challenge you've been seeing and how your team has been working through that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of us can relate, right? It's like, so you're trying to get on the zone. We're trying to work these big, we call them the third horizon, these forward-looking things, the things you want to work on that require some deep creative thought and energy. And then bing, here comes Slack, and it's customer X has a question about why isn't this working, or what's this, how do I get this job to run faster, or something like that, and it has to be today, right? It has to be right away. So it blurs the line on work and just that context switching can be really frustrating, right? And things like that. Do try and manage that a little bit by making sure that the engineers who are working on big projects, aren't as closely related to that operations, but then make sure the same engineer isn't stuck with that operations all the time. And also, we got the commercial team always with demands to help us set up this or that for a prospect that's going to happen tomorrow. Where that's the context you asked for, how to best manage it. I think we're all trying to figure it out day by day, but it is about recognizing the cost of context switching. It is a real cost and impact to your company.
We have a client we work with that brought us in to do consulting of their processes, their operations. And one of the things we found was that their CTO and chief product officer were not setting classifications to tickets and requests that came in. So everything that came in was a top priority. And regardless of the impact or the severity or the need behind it, and we help them really create a chart to prioritize and stick to it. And that's done a lot for them. Sometimes in smaller organizations, it's everyone's running around with their head cut off like a chicken.
Yeah, because if what's the old cliche? If nothing's a priority, everything's a priority. And what that tends to do is it pushes down that prioritization of work to the individual. So as an executive team, we're no longer controlling the priority of our company and our direction, because we're making the individual who's just going to solve the problem that's right in front of them that makes the loudest gear quiet. So I think you can have that, like you said. I'm sure they got a lot of help from just knowing, hey, you can't just let that happen. You'll lose control of your.
Now, another challenge you were talking about is making sure there's clarity within the complexity of technical solutions across industries, across time zones, how different people use different terminology. Give us your view on that and how you guys go about that.
Yeah, we talk about clarity a lot on the executive team, because it's like there is like these words like in data processing get reused: workspace, type, even delta sharing, even AI itself. These people have different understandings of what those are based on the context of the work they're doing from our commercial team.
I bet if we lined up 10 technical leaders right now and asked them what AI is, we'd get 10 different responses.
Yeah, easily. So what is like when you're trying to talk to it, you have to really know the audience that you're talking to and try and really understand where they're coming from and how they're interpreting maybe some of the words you're using. And me as a technician, I tend to get into the weeds on something like that and use these terminologies, and that can destroy some clarity with some people who are really just trying to focus in on a business need, right?
What are some of the ones that have caused issues, whether you're dealing in the commercial sector or the government sector, the commercial sector?
Yeah, like, we right now, when I say the commercial, sometimes I really just mean our sales focus, right? Like, so, and we're dealing strictly with commercial organizations right now, life sciences and provider. And so sometimes we'll talk about our product like Wayfinder, even the data sync. and what that means about sourcing data. And they'll want something that's really kind of simple and super clear. And but when I'm talking with the engineer team, they want something that's very detailed of like what API sets are we really showing, and the demo that we might put together might be so detailed that we can't cram it into the presentation and those kind of things. So we've seen a few of those kind of scenarios where it's like, oh, where do you go? Like, how do you package that technology thing in clean rooms, when we say that, into the use case for the business, and still see the engineers can really break it down to the tasks that have to be in Jira.
And that's why a good CTO and product team's needed, right?
Yeah, that keeps us busy for sure. And fortunately, Ryan Lorg, our lead of the product team, we have a good communication around those kind of things. But it's something that, it takes a lot of time.
Now, you mentioned another challenge, which I know nobody else is having. This is unique to you guys. Keeping up with AI, managing it, integrating it, make sure you're leveraging it. Let's hear your viewpoint on this. You're the only one out of 166 episodes that has said this.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I'm glad you've heard of it. I'm sure it's getting around. Yeah, everything is every aspect of industry right now has got to have some impact with AI. And for us, again, it's one of those general terms. To some degree, we've always been an AI company. We've always had machine learning and statistical modeling inside our data analytics platforms. But when most people, I think, on that commercial side, again, that term, they're thinking LLMs, right? They're thinking natural language part interfaces and things like that. And so that's where I think, for us as a company, we've had to really invest recently and make sure we have our AI more outward facing. And with Databricks, of course, they've been a great help in being able to integrate all these models. But when our new React-based UI that's on top of the Databricks backend, we have an AI interface that's letting us use that so our customers can use a more natural language way to query data. And we have a large cohort of our user base is going to need that kind of thing. They don't want to develop. And just driving a dashboard isn't even, they want something a little quicker and a little bit more natural language.
Gotcha. How have you gone about, Matt, and whether it's your current company or throughout your career, dealing with non-technical stakeholders, whether they're clients, whether they're C-level executives, board members, investors, when they start talking more hype of AI versus what's actually achievable right now? How have you gone about that?
Yeah, that's a challenge in my role, because I am to try and bring that rationality and that reason to it. But then again, nothing happens till something gets sold too. And you want to make sure that there's that clarity on that front end side where everybody's comfortable with the changes that are going. But it also, you don't want to let anybody get, a proportion too. Like, you don't have to create your own LLM. There's so many agents that are out there. You just want to make sure you're matching it to the use case and what training really needs. So it does go back to clarity again, and making sure you don't give too much detail but you're meeting them where they need with that high level, like groupings and stuff like that. So they know scope and understand where things plug together, and the modularity of things. To whether, I think as a small team, it really does help, because we as a founders group we pretty much know each areas and strengths and where to pass it to Russ, who's our data scientist, or Jeff, who's very fluent in those kind of things. So I think it's just been that kind of thing. It's just sort of knowing when, as a team, we can address all these questions.
Gotcha. So I like to bring up the latest MIT report that talks about generative AI pilots within corporations and how there's been a 95% failure rate of having negative or no ROI. What's your take on that? Why so many AI projects have failed?
Again, I'll just go with it. I think it's because they blow it up out of scale and out of scope. Like, you don't necessarily have to rebuild your LLM from the ground up on a certain data set. There's a lot of already trained models that you can just sort of train. and pull together, right? And this is where us staying in our swim lane with Databricks, who's a $1 billion invested company, and where we're about trying to bring the value of those tools, AI being one of them, and really tying it to the business problem at hand. I think a lot of these companies get in out over their skis, and that they're trying to do what Databricks kind of company is really the expertise at, or an OpenAI or a Grok. Those companies that are really trying to build out those models, train them, whereas you really need to focus on leveraging them to your business problems and stay focused on your business
I like it. So, Matt, what's a brutal lesson that you know from your scars of working in multiple companies and being an IT veteran? What's a brutal lesson you wish you would have learned earlier in your career?
Yeah. I thought of a couple, like goes from like the smallest thing, like I still regret not using file partitioning right from the get-go in 2015 when we started with Databricks to organize our data model. Took me a little while to get up to speed with that, and then which has since been replaced with liquid clustering. But that's a really hyper specific thing. On the more general thing, it's like just recognizing when a project or an initiative or even an employee just isn't working out. It's not aligning goals wise, and just facing those things faster. And when you're a startup, you really do need to face those things faster and confront them right away. So those are the kind of looking back. Those are the two big, the specific thing and the general thing that learn the hard way sometimes.
As we're wrapping up 2025 here, going into 2026, what are some of the biggest business or technical outcomes that you're focused on for 2026?
For sure, we're in a phase where we want to really start scaling out our new offerings from DataSync and our Wheel library and our UI, which is a really great fit for the provider market. So it's a lot about scaling, and it's about managing cost and support and all that stuff in this environment, about trying to really make much bigger inroads in life sciences and grow our provider where we're doing great.
So what are some of the biggest obstacles for you guys to achieve those goals?
Yeah, we talked about that clarity and the tyranny of the urgent. And I think that's, I'll just go back to those things, because it is a lot where we're trying to keep our teams small, because I think small teams are more effective than teams that are growing without really specific drivers behind them. So to be able to manage that the one thing is, like, I go back to, like, we have a history of a factory where we're producing these data products and we're just rolling them out. In a factory, the machine that builds it can be kind of dirty and noisy and scrapes and dents. The guy knows how to make it work, where to hit it. But now with our package, we have a thing that's much more like an appliance where our customers are going to use it. And there's a much higher degree of requirement there. It needs to look nice. It needs to run smoothly, and it needs to well documented. And we're all there. As we roll that out, we're going to find that there's going to be a big demand to keep that support really at a high level.
Excellent. Well, Matt, thank you so much for getting uncensored with us today. You've truly got that rare combo of both vision and execution, and love to hear about what you're doing with Kythera Labs. Excited to see where you continue to go. Before we wrap, what's your no BS advice for today's tech leaders who are trying to build, scale, or even just survive in these interesting times?
Just get in there and don't be afraid, right? Like, do it. Don't overanalyze. Get in there, build things, get them out in front of customers, and get that feedback. So don't be afraid to get yourself out there and try out new things.
I love it. Great. Matt, thank you so much. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and hit subscribe. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time.
Great. Thank you, Steve.
That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, My company, Sonatafy Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.